Welcome to Make Change Fun and Easy with your happiness expert, Samia Bano. This is the podcast to help change makers, coaches, trainers, and healers break your chains of fear so you can create the impact and income you desire with fun and ease. Please make sure you subscribe to enjoy every episode. This podcast is sponsored by the Happiness 101 program. Hello, salam, shalom, namaste, sat sri akal, aloha, hola, ciao, bonjour, buna, privyet, and mabuhay. It's really, really good to be with you again, and I know you'll be so happy you're joining us today because we have a wonderful guest with us. It's Livia Suver, who is a women's holistic health coach. Welcome, Livia.
Oh, thank you so much, Samia, for inviting me here to your show, and it is always a pleasure to be here with you.
Yes, I'm so excited for our conversation today because I know you have so much wisdom to share. And Livia, please tell us more about who you are and what you do.
Certainly. Well, as you mentioned, I am a women's holistic health coach, yoga teacher, therapist, spiritual mentor. So, yeah, in my work, in the context of integrative trauma-informed framework, I am actually weaving together the ancient wisdom with the modern science, and integrating different facets, different elements, different parts and dimensions of our being, meaning that in my work, I'm using tools that are integrative in nature, body, mind, soul, so psychosomatic, psycho-emotional. So it is very holistic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that about your approach. And I do the best I can in working with my people to also use a holistic approach because it's just so important. Our body, mind, spirits, everything's so interconnected and interdependent that it's really challenging to try and help somebody without using a holistic approach, honestly. So
True.
I really appreciate how you do also recognize that and use the more holistic approach. Yeah.
It is the way to go, for the long-lasting healing and sustainable transformation. That's very critical that we look at look at ourselves as a multidimensional being. Really, that's who we are, and because we are multidimensional beings, pain is also multidimensional. So in order to heal that, we must look at it as such, like multidimensionality of it, we need to see.
Yes. So a lot of people that you help, from what I understand about your work, a lot of people come to you at first because they're in pain. Can you tell me a little bit more about some of the main challenges that people come to you with?
Yeah. So certainly, I primarily serve women, and it is mostly around pelvic back issues, pelvic back pain, because just as you said, everything is interconnected. So if the woman has pelvic or reproductive system disorder or pain, disease, it is inevitably interconnected with other parts. And the back is number one that women are experiencing pain with as well, along with the pelvic. Yeah. So, and it is not just structurally interconnected, but energetically. So I work a lot on the energetic level, metaphysical, and subtle body work as well.
Yeah. I didn't realize how common back pain was an issue for women in particular. I've had back pain. Now that I think about it, I've had issues with back pain. My mom has had issues with back pain. Now that I'm thinking about, my sister has had issues with back pain. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't, right? I don't know anyone who wouldn't have some kind of back issue, and just the sedentary lifestyle itself contributes massively to that.
Yes.
Yeah. So
what you were sharing about, how all our different systems are so integrated, and your other area of where you help women in terms of their health that you specialize in, is particularly is pelvic health, and I think you were saying some can you tell me a little bit more about pelvic health? Because I know, like, for me, I was sharing with you before, English is my second language, and I didn't actually fully understand what encompasses our pelvic and pelvic health. When we talk about it, what are we really talking about? Can you tell me a little bit more about that, and get more into how they're interconnected and how you help, etc.?
Right.
Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode. Hope you're getting value out of it. For your information, this episode has been sponsored by the Happiness 101 program. Are you a change maker, coach, trainer, or healer? Are chains of fear holding you back from making the impact and income you desire? Using a unique combination of positive psychology and the spiritual wisdom of our most effective change makers, the Happiness 101 program helps you break through your limiting beliefs and manifest the abundance and success you desire with fun and ease. Interested? Book a free Happiness 101 exploration call with me, your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Just use my online calendar link in the show notes. Now back to the show.
Right. Oh my gosh. I mean, especially the female pelvis, when we talk about female pelvis, there's so much to it. We could talk hours about this, and mostly people are, familiar with the structural aspect of the pelvis. They would think about the hips and, pelvic bones and pelvic floor structure. So that's the usual way, people would associate with pelvis. But obviously it houses the tremendous amount of, these organs within the pelvis, and glands and lymphatics and nerves. And so just the lymphatic, for instance, lymphatic plays a major role in pelvic disorder symptomology. especially for women. And any disease or any disorder, pelvic or pelvic floor disorder, is due to lymphatic obstruction, lymphatic stagnation. But yeah, and of course, there is yeah. So I work a lot with trauma as well. Trauma stored in the body, and I use as a yoga teacher, therapist, I use yoga a lot to repattern those patterns of trauma, stored in the tissue, stored in and specifically in the female's pelvis, because pelvis holds really the feminine wisdom, womb space, right? And when women are experiencing, and it has been obviously, as we know, over millennia, decades and decades and generations of traumas, suppression and marginalization, abuse and exploitation. It's usually all the trauma just goes into female pelvis, being stored there. And, pelvis is also closely interconnected with the heart. I mean, the womb space specifically, with the heart and the seat of expression, throat as well. So, and when there is a heartache, trauma, the women experiencing, actually, I learned this, which is fascinating, like in order to protect the heart, somehow on the energetic level, the trauma actually moves into the womb space. It's more kind of manageable than, heart. So I have been always fascinated with this energetic and metaphysical, mystical aspects to.
Now, when you talk about the heart, are you are not I mean, obviously, again, everything's interconnected and interdependent, but in this context, are you talking about like our spiritual heart, or are you talking about the actual physical heart and the connection with the pelvis?
Both, actually. Yes, there is a very, very intimate interplay between both on physical level, in terms of the blood flow, blood exchange, blood flow, and but also energetically,
What you just made me think about is, in the Muslim tradition, the main word that we use to refer to God, sort of like in the Muslim tradition, when we want to say God, there's a proper name that is used in the Quran, and that name is Allah. But there are also 99, there's total of 99 names by which God refers to God in our holy scripture, the Quran. And some of them have feminine attributes, and some of them have masculine attributes. And actually, because Arabic is a gendered language, every word has a gender, even if it's referring to something like a table or a rock. Every word has some kind of a gender, because that's just the way that the Arabic language works.
Yeah.
And it's very, very interesting. The word, one of the names of God that is most often used and repeated in the scripture is it's called Rahman, and in English we normally translate it as the merciful or the most compassionate. But in Arabic, it's very interesting that root word Rahman, the root of it, it has a feminine
Yes.
meaning to it, or association with it, and one of the root meanings of it is actually womb. And so there's this intimate connection that we are being told exists between our experience and ability to be compassionate, practice compassion, experience compassion, and the womb, and the function that the womb serves. And it's one of the most emphasized qualities of God in the Quran.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, that's why I advocate so much for a womb space, for a womb wisdom, because it is really a sacred portal. All life emerges from the womb, right?
Yes.
So it is a sacred portal, and also in a body. We're talking about female body. It is located, in the pelvis, close to the foundational chakras in energy. Many people are familiar with chakras. So not chakras, chakras. Because the difference. So that the primal foundational ground from where all life emerges, right? And so I am really passionate about. I myself, and one of the reasons why I am so passionate and advocate for female pelvic floor health and wellness and wholeness is because I myself experienced a wounding in my pelvis, and so I don't want other women to go through that. So especially in my my program, Whole and Radiant, a holistic path to back and pelvic health, I use all these tools that are helping women to really restore not just that physical health, well-being, but the whole wholeness, the whole who we are, so
yes.
Yeah.
So oh my gosh, because you know what you just made me think about is again, this is related to my Muslim tradition in the Quran. It is said that, of course, like every verse in the Quran, every chapter has its own beauty and its own power, different things that you learn from it, right? But when it comes to health and healing, there's one particular chapter that is said to be the most relevant and powerful. So like when somebody is not feeling well, that's the chapter the scholars will say, recite this chapter, let it sink into you, and it's not just about, it's really about learning to embody, whatever you study in the scripture. If you don't learn from it, if you don't embody it, if you don't practice it, of course, then you don't get as much benefit from it, right? Very interesting thing is that the chapter that's related to to healing, the most directly connected to healing. Any kind of pain or illness, it's the chapter entitled The Compassionate.
Yes.
Man, and so it's like the connection between not just like all life comes from the womb, but there's a connection between the womb and compassion, and there's a connection between compassion and healing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So so it's like both life is emerging from the womb / compassion, but also healing is made possible through the compassion, and something to do with the womb. So that's so fascinating. Oh my gosh. Oh
yeah. Full circle, right? Yeah, and it is a practice, compassion, right? So, and it's, I would say, it really boils down to returning to our source, who we really are, because you talk about scriptures, and I as a yoga teacher studying the Eastern wisdom and teachings, I'm totally aligned with with your where you are coming from, and scriptures also say that we are consciousness. That's that's who we are, and moving away from our true essence is the source of all pain and suffering. I mean, obviously pain is real, and pain comes from different experiences and situations and events. It can be physical, very physical, injuries obviously, but when we talk about disease, thinking about the disease, we cannot forget about mind-body connection, how mind body are so inseparably interconnected that no thought, no feeling, it's all energy, right? So no thought passes through the mind that does not affect immediately the state of our physical body. So and it happens over time. Obviously, it doesn't happen overnight, but when we live in those mental, emotional patterns, limiting beliefs and negative and low vibrational thoughts, all that, it definitely will manifest as a disorder, and every disorder really is just a symptom of that deeper core issue. So going back to the consciousness, so which I work a lot with my clients around this, like my work revolves a lot around awakening the bliss body, because unless we tap into that innermost core, innermost bliss body that is a source of all healing, we can do a million things, a million therapies, and approaching the healing from externals, like
yes.
Then no wonder that many times things are not improving, because being in touch with that source of all healing within, healing from within, right? I always say, then it's most likely won't be lasting.
Yeah, it's I never, until just a few years ago, realized the very profound connection between healing, our ability to heal ourselves, and being able to be in that blissful state. I mean, I don't often use the word bliss. I think more about happiness and peace and relaxation. But really, when you're happy and peaceful and relaxed, you are blissful.
Yeah.
But it's like so critical for our healing. One of my teacher mentors pointed out that we actually were doing various experiments, and just like in terms of experiments with ourselves, and it's like okay, tense up your body now and try to experience. So this was in the context of some energy healing work that we were learning about and practicing. And he would be like, okay, do this, tense yourself just by squishing your muscles and your face or some whatever, like just tense yourself somehow at a physical level, and then experience what it receiving the healing energy, and versus relax your body as much as possible and experience receiving the healing energy. And it's so different. And actually, once you become sensitive to these things, you can actually feel that when you're tense, it actually blocks your ability to receive the healing energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is a methodology to it. It's not like, okay, just get blissed out. There is a scientific methodology to it. And what I have been noticing over and over and hearing, about this, the bliss, the misunderstanding what bliss really is. Usually, people think about, I don't know, something from outside. There's something when I get it, I will.
Oh, Livia, just sorry to pause you, but I somehow lost your audio. Yeah. Oh no, I still don't hear you. Oh, now I hear you.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries. I just saw a message pop up that the internet connection was unstable, so maybe that's why.
Okay.
No worries, but I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay.
Maybe it's okay. We'll delete this part, but maybe you can start talking again about.
Sure. So what did you hear? What did you hear me say?
I heard you say that a lot of times when people think about bliss, they think about something from outside.
Yeah, or the temporary pleasure. That bliss is often associated with the temporary pleasure, but this deeper dimension. There's a bliss that we are really going after, bliss arising independently from within, because we are divine and forgetting who we are. Forgetting about that and playing small, especially women, playing small and don't even feel that they deserve to be healed. or they want it all very much, but we got so used to that unworthiness, which is the core wound, one of the core wounds of humanity, and it bridges into exploitation. So we are so used to this conditioning that is one of the main reasons why we get stuck, as far as the lasting healing goes. And but the world is changing, and the consciousness is we are constantly evolving. So I think we are on good track evolutionarily.
Yes. And this is a really excellent point that you raise about how people tend to associate being able to experience bliss with things outside of themselves. It's like, oh, if by some miracle everything around me is perfect, then I get to experience bliss. But how often is everything perfect around you? Not very often at all. And so if that was the only way we could experience bliss, I mean, we would be very, very sad people and very hard pressed to experience feeling.
So it is really about, as I mentioned, there is a methodology to it, and intentional conditioning on a regular daily basis, conditioning our mind, our body to consciousness through various practices. So and it takes time. First it might be just glimpses, right? Glimpses of bliss. And as we continue bathing in that field that we intentionally create, then those glimpses become longer each time, a little longer. You can stay in it a little longer, until it becomes always state, and no matter what is going on, just as you say, it will be never perfect, but no matter what, we are anchored, rooted in that state, and it becomes our primary steady state.
Yes. You know what you just reminded me of? I watch a lot of Indian dramas. One of the dramas that came on TV, this was actually like maybe 2-3 years ago, but it was a drama portraying the life and teachings of one of the religious, spiritual healers and leaders that emerged in India. This was, I think, in the 18th century. His name, he was most commonly known as Sai Baba. And, he was known to have performed many, many, many miraculous spiritual healings for people, sort of, the kind that you hear about Jesus, Jesus being able to heal a leper with his touch or heal the blind, etc. These are the kinds of healings that Sai Baba, was also, he became known that he was able to perform heal people spiritually, energetically, etc. And so some of the drama portrayed that kind of aspect of his life. But more importantly, I thought they also showed how he was very, very actively engaged in creating social change and involved with, he would, part of how he lived, he basically lived a beggar's lifestyle. Like he didn't own things. He didn't even have a home, this and that. He lived in ruins. Like there was no roof, there was no proper walls, and he refused to let anyone build like there were many people who were like, oh, let us build you a home, whatever, but he refused because because it was part of how he chose to live, and every day he would go out to ask for alms or whatever else that he needed. He would literally go from door to door asking for that aid, for that help. But in the process, that's how he got to know what was going on with the people. Because when he went to their homes to ask for, hey, do you have any food or whatever else he needed, they would talk to him about what was going on with them, and so then he was able to help people out. And so
Just so sorry to interrupt you. Just like these days,
Yeah.
when they say, "Okay, go out and talk to your clients and people to find out what are the problems so you can help them."
yes, it's so important to have that, one-on-one connection with people. And so the relationship that people built with Sai, because they could see and feel and experience that he cared about them, and that he knew what was going on with them. He was aware. And in any case, there were like some people, not everyone obviously was ready to have that level of trust and so forth in him. So some people, I remember there's this one scene in particular that you triggered in my memory, where there's this one person who was like going through all kinds of suffering in his life, and he was feeling very angry. And this person was experiencing one loss after another, and in this particular scene, Sai Baba was sort of listening to him. He was present with him, but he was also very calm. And this man, he was like, how can you be so calm? We have lost this and we have lost that, and I know you care. How can you stay so calm? And he even Sai Baba had a little smile on his face, which was very, like most of the time when they showed him, he would, be smiling. And so he's, how can you smile in these times of, difficulty and loss and challenge? And and I don't remember exactly what Sai said in that scene right now, but I remember it had, something like the essence of what he shared in that moment was basically that, right now what you're focusing on is the pain and the loss that you're seeing. However, if you go deeper within yourself, you will find that, God is still with us and loving us and taking care of us. And if you can, sort of focus on that, on receiving that love and care, you will find that the problems, the pain that you're experiencing will ease for you,
So
and
in a way, it just remind me the identification really, it's all about what we identify ourselves, who we are. We are not that loss. We are not that heartbreak. We are not that drama. We are more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We connect back to the core of who we are. And when you do that, you discover the bliss, you know?
Yeah. So I am all about, I usually say, okay, I hope women break free from the cycle of chronic back and pelvic pain and ignite their inner power so they can heal and feel whole and radiant from the inside out. I just realized I forgot to introduce this message.
Oh, this is the perfect time for you to share that. Beautiful.
Yeah, and it is all about breaking free. I say breaking free from the cycle of pain, but it's more than just back and pelvic pain, right? So in a way, breaking free from a cycle, karmic cycle, samskaras. That's why we are here, in this lifetime, at this time, to play out and what we subscribe to go through lessons that we, made agreement to do so. For the sake of that becoming, right? Evolutionaries of becoming who we are. It's coming home. It is a journey of coming home. And so the as far as the female pelvis, it's and I often say restoring or creating or restoring the body to the state of that sacred temple of divine wholeness, because the body is just a house. The house is our sacred wholeness and divinity, right? So we need to take care of it. Our bodies, it's and pelvis is very powerful hub, that we must pay attention to and restore wholeness of female pelvis.
What you're making me really appreciate about your approach, Livia, is there's obviously different pathways for us to take to achieve the kind of healing and happiness and bliss that we desire in our lives. And for a lot of people, physical pain, physical ailments, whether it's in your back or pelvis or any other area of your life, oftentimes those are the strongest motivators for us to do something to create change in our lives. A lot of times, if you're experiencing an issue at a mental, emotional level, if there is like spiritually, that feel of discontentment, a lot of times people feel able to ignore those callings from our inner self to do something to change. But when we experience physical pain, for most people, that is a very, very strong motivation to do something to create change in their lives. And so it becomes a pathway to strive for healing ourselves at a physical level, becomes a pathway to healing all aspects of ourselves, really, that is more, in some ways, accessible or desirable, at least to begin with, for a lot of people than otherwise. And so it's really wonderful that you know, you have the approach that you do where, you know, you meet people where they're at, and you begin your work with them with what the problem is that's at the top of mind for them, and then you also don't stop there at the surface level, but you continue to take them deeper and deeper and deeper so that they can heal in this more holistic fashion. It's just, it's really, really amazing and awesome. Thank you so much for the work that you do.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. I mean, I am really honored and humbled, truly humbled to serve in this capacity and being able to serve in this kind of way and capacity. It is really an honor, and I'm grateful for it. By the way, I just wanted to say it is very critical to build a strong, stable, balanced foundation in the body, you know, because there are many situations when people want to get into these extraordinary states, spiritual states, you know, consciousness. But if the body is not built strong enough, you know, if the foundation is not strong enough to hold those frequencies, right, then it can be even dangerous, right?
Right.
So, and I'm all about, you know, I'm all for spirituality, all for ascension, all for, you know, expansion and all that, but we cannot forget about this shell, this vehicle that we were given, we chose to embody. We cannot forget to take care of it, you know, and in that multidimensional way, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, thankfully, I personally haven't had this experience, because actually, you know, I'm half Indian, and I started out living in India. I mean, my family's moved around over time, but for the first so many years of my life, I was actually living in India. And you know, so like for me, ever since I was even a little child, I sort of had this sense of awareness and of how important it is to work with teachers who have experience and wisdom when it comes to your working to grow yourself, improve yourself, especially in the context of spiritual growth. And I emphasize that because, you know, in our modern society, we take so much. It's like when it comes to our, like, for example, our mental growth, we're like, oh yeah, of course, send the kid to school and spend years and years being guided by, you know, teachers and you know, in this whole setup that's designed to help you learn and grow in terms of how your mind works, how your brain works. But why don't we think we need teachers to help us and guide us when we need to learn and grow at an emotional level, at a spiritual level? It's just in some ways mind-boggling that we don't realize and recognize that in modern society. But
Yeah.
in India, the way that at least I experienced my life growing up, this awareness of you need teachers who have been there and done that to sort of guide you, not just in the context of learning to uh, make your mind and brain work better, but also in the context of your spiritual and emotional health. And so I have done my best to be careful in that context and always be seeking out teachers and guides in that context. But for
Good for
people
you.
that
Yeah. Good
I
for
feel
you.
very blessed. But I know so many people that uh, when who didn't have that awareness and they got themselves into all kinds of trouble trying to figure things out on their own.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I mean, I'm
Absolutely.
a lot of people, like for example, get caught up in cults and all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of other negative things. Where I was working with a client who was seriously spiritually traumatized because
Mm.
she thought she was going to be learning some form of meditation or something like that.
Mhm.
But turns out that um, it was all like, I mean, the program that she signed up for to
Yeah,
learn this meditation practice or whatever, it was like somebody just made something up and they didn't really know
I
what they were
know. I
doing,
know.
and they were using this as a technique to like actually draw people in into like this complete scam.
Mm.
And
Oh, yeah. I know. We have to be very careful. People have to be very careful, and that's why it's so important to build that inner resilience,
yeah, yeah,
inner that strong foundation, not just physically, but, emotionally, spiritually, that we are not susceptible or shaky, and get brainwashed with some
yeah.
cults or
Oh, and you know what you just also reminded me of, like more specifically, because you were talking about building the body's capacity in the context as it relates to spiritual growth. A few years ago, I was hearing about um, people talking about the kundalini, and there's another word. I think in some other cultures they use other terminology to refer to kundalini, but it's a form of like energy that is housed within our body. And
yes.
uh, some people are like, okay, I want to awaken my kundalini, I
Oh my
want to
gosh.
activate. And and if you don't do it in the right proper manner,
Yeah.
you can actually, there's actually a whole thing, like you can go
Yeah.
kundalini syndrome or something.
People can the nervous system cannot
Yeah,
might not hold those frequencies, and they end up with the mental illness, so it's
yeah,
so important
yeah, don't
to
just wear
know,
it.
yeah, to be under the guidance of authentic, genuine, and real teacher, real
Yeah,
master who, because unfortunately, even in a spiritual world, there's lots of scam, lots of shady intentions, right, behind different things. But it is so, and I'm so glad you brought it up, because as far as kundalini, yeah, it's not a good idea to force it, okay? And we all have it, obviously, because we are spiritual beings, and the consciousness became many, right?
yeah,
Including us. So that divine force is within all of us.
Yes.
But it's very important to
Yeah.
know and find a proper guidance.
Yeah. So can you maybe, and this might be one of the last questions I ask you, because I know you will probably be needing to get going also.
That's okay.
But what are some ways in which people can recognize an authentic teacher versus somebody who might be scamming? Because I've noticed this in the West, like people, I mean, in back in India, this was also true, but I think in the West, because people are more divorced from a lot of these practices, and like, religion and spirituality for most people in the West, it's not a part of everyday life and everyday culture. Um, in society, for most people, religion and spirituality are more personal things, and so they're not as actually familiar with the more established traditional wisdom and pathways, etc. So it can be very challenging for them to recognize who is genuine and honest versus who might be, just pretending and trying to scam you. Like, what are some ways people can recognize the genuine teachers?
It's a very good question. And oftentimes, unfortunately, it's very hard to know what is real, genuine, and what is manipulative, right? I personally, I was always trusting my inner guidance, intuition, and listening to that. That was my own experience, that which never lied to me, my own inner knowing. So it's very important to tap into that inner knowing, and then I'll be guided by that. When it can be okay, people are naturally gravitating towards certain teachers. It's mostly energetic thing, but I personally would keep away from big claims, and I mean, you have examples of such things, like when some gurus are trying to impress people by performing miracles. Right? Okay, there is ego behind it. I am not interested in that personally, in miracles, performing miracles. Of course, there were very rare beings on this planet who would actually perform miracles, but not in such a fashion that, impressing people. The intention was behind it to uplift, help and uplift humanity. So there's differences in that too.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
yeah, you just made me think again of Sai Baba, and other genuine wise healers, leaders, teachers that I know. And for me, one of the something that you want to be very careful about is when somebody is charging a lot of money, try to suck a lot of money out of you. And often, the moment a lot of money gets involved, you have to immediately be like, what's going on? Double, triple, times check everything, because like a lot of the spiritual, like the genuine spiritual teachers, they're not interested in money.
Yeah.
They know that's the least of what they
Yeah.
really need and want and desire in
Yeah.
their lives. And like Sai Baba, I was saying, I mean, he was like a whole different level in terms of living as a beggar. I mean, you don't have to go that far, but
Yeah.
certainly, like I know there's lots of like people are paying literally tens of thousands of
Yeah.
dollars sometimes
Yeah.
to go on these like retreats and things. And I'm not saying they may not be genuine or that they may not receive
Mhm.
value out of those, but when a lot of money gets involved,
Yeah.
that's a potential red flag.
Mhm. Yeah, and there is also when there are some scandals, right, of well-known scandals behind these leaders, whatever.
Yeah,
That's
to
not
do
good
some
situation.
research. Yeah, I mean they're well known if you are in the community, but a lot of times for new people you may not be aware. And so to do some
Mhm.
research, do your due diligence, just
Yeah,
try to
yeah,
Google some
yeah,
information about the person and
yeah,
see what comes up, and just be careful.
yeah, yeah. So as I said, I would go by my own feeling about it,
Yeah.
and even if if you get involved, whatever, but if you really stay true to yourself, what is to your values and all that, then you recognize very quickly whether it works for you, whether it is genuine or not. So
Yeah, so maybe and the thing is that is also a skill in itself. A lot of people have to develop to learn to live
yeah, so
what
yeah,
maybe work on that first.
and yeah, so last time you asked me, Samia, about the tool, right? Like one of the tools, and I was mentioning this specific breath work,
Yes.
right? That I teach, and I mentor people around, and it's very potent, very powerful, yet incredibly healing. So this victorious breath, and there's a specific way of doing it, and it has been handed down by lineage. The other thing I wanted to mention about how to know whether this is a genuine teaching, because there is a lineage behind it. Lineage is important. So this particular breath work, thousands of being handed down, thousands of years, and it always, I found it the most powerful. Is simple yet the most powerful of all practices and tools I have.
Yes.
And so to go back to a question, how to refine that intuition in knowing and just perception. So using this breath, for instance, amongst other obviously things,
Yes.
but this really helps, not just with the perception refinement and healing, because it is profoundly oxygenating. It is revitalizing and replenishing and releasing, literally washing away stagnation and toxins, including trauma from the
Yeah.
body, and in a combination with the somatic and the movement. So it's very powerful, and in a very short period of time can work miracles, really. That's the real miracle, your own breath.
Yeah.
And so so this I would highly recommend for anyone and everyone to practice. And obviously I can help with that if people would choose to to
Yeah.
step into that work. But anyway, so I just wanted to mention this because
Thank you so much for that. I have a deep appreciation and love for breath work myself. It is one of the most fun and easy ways, I must say, to learn to connect with ourselves more deeply. I mean, we all have to breathe. I mean, we literally cannot survive for more than a very short amount of time without breathing. I remember one of uh, the teachers quote something. He says, if you can learn to control your breath, you can learn to control your life.
Yes, and I would add, if you learn to surrender to the breath breathing you, which is none other than God itself breathing you. If we learn how to surrender, because that is ultimately practice of surrender, and from that comes that compassion. So I mean, I have been practicing this for over 30 years, and you can see I am just so so thrilled about it, because it's never ending exploration, and the subtleties. It's not just breath, you watch YouTube for 5 minutes. No, this is lifelong journey.
Yes.
And this is one of the potent tools that can actually get you connected and embodied in that bliss body, bliss self.
So true.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I could keep talking with you forever and ever, Livia.
I know, we have a good time, right?
Oh gosh. Okay, so just for today, let's wrap up. In wrapping up, I would love for you to let our listeners, our audience know some ways that they can get in touch with you, and so they can continue to learn with you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you for your work, Samia. This is very much needed in the world, your work. So thanks for that. So listeners could maybe check out my website, one of channels. ShaktiYogaCalgary.com is one of my website. Another one needs to be revamped, but otherwise I am on Facebook, Livia Suver, on LinkedIn as well, and I am offering at the moment a handful of free breakthrough sessions, Radiant You breakthrough sessions, 60 minutes breakthrough sessions. So I don't know if you will be posting that link to my calendar or not, but that is probably the best way to get in touch with me.
Thank you so much for offering that wonderful gift to our listeners. This opportunity to get in touch with you with the Radiant You breakthrough sessions. And I'll definitely make sure I drop that link in the show notes, along with the links to your social media and your website, so that people can get in touch with you whatever way is most easy for them and that feels most relevant to them in the moment. So we'll definitely do that. And so I would definitely encourage all of our audience, as my last reminder to you, to check the show notes and connect with Livia whenever you feel ready and wanting more help and support. And I get excellent vibes from Livia. So based on what my heart guides me to, I recommend Livia very, very much. Thank you so much. And until we connect next time, I wish you lots and lots of peace and joy.
Thank you so much, Samia. And likewise, I am deeply honored to be here with you.